Are you sure you want to buy all of them? The girl's voice trembled slightly as she clutched the worn plastic bag full of oranges. She was only 9 years old, but her eyes carried the exhaustion of someone who knew far too well the bitter taste of necessity. The man in front of her didn't answer immediately. He wore an immaculate black suit that probably cost more than everything she owned multiplied by 100. His dark eyes studied her with an intensity that made her heart beat faster, not exactly with fear, but with something she couldn't name. Around them, 2 muscular bodyguards maintained rigid postures, hands crossed in front, watching every movement of the child as if she represented some kind of threat. All of them, confirmed Dante Moretti, pulling a leather wallet from inside his jacket. His fingers, decorated with a massive gold ring engraved with the symbol of a family that had controlled the city for 3 generations, counted some bills without hurry. How much do you want for them? Mary hesitated. Normally she asked $5 for the complete batch, but something about that marble white mansion, those perfectly manicured gardens, and that Italian fountain in the center of the courtyard screamed that she could ask for more. Much more. $10? She ventured, prepared to accept less. Dante extended 5 $20 bills. $100. The equivalent of 3 weeks of exhausting work knocking door to door under the scorching sun. Mary's eyes widened, and she took a step back, as if the money could burn her. Sir, that's too much. The oranges aren't worth all that. When was the last time you ate something decent? The question came accompanied by a look that seemed to see through the worn clothes, the shoes with soles coming loose, the dirt accumulated under her small nails. Mary's stomach growled in response before she could formulate any polite lie. Her cheeks burned with shame. She had eaten a piece of bread that morning, split with her mother who was coughing blood on the thin mattress that served as a bed for both. Something passed across Dante's face, a quick shadow that disappeared as fast as it appeared. Come in. I'll have something prepared while I pack your oranges. My mom said never to go into strangers' houses. Mary responded automatically, repeating the lesson that Clara had hammered into her head since she was old enough to understand words. Your mother is wise. Dante gestured to one of the bodyguards. Marco, bring food out here, and juice, something a child would like. He returned his attention to Mary. Better this way. You don't need to come in. You can wait here in the garden. Mary nodded, relieved. While the bodyguard disappeared into the mansion, she allowed herself to admire the surroundings. Everything there breathed power and money, but in a different way from the houses of ordinary rich people where she sometimes managed to sell her fruit. There was something darker, heavier in the air. The security cameras in every corner. The armed men discreetly positioned. The silence that seemed to hold its breath. What's your name? Dante asked, breaking the uncomfortable silence. Mary. Mary. He repeated the name as if testing its weight on his tongue. Pretty name. How old are you, Mary? 9. I'll be 10 in March. Dante became motionless. Completely motionless. Even his breathing seemed to stop for a moment. His eyes narrowed as he calculated mentally, and Mary saw something change in his expression. Something she couldn't interpret but that made the air around them seem denser. March of what year? The question was strange, but Mary answered anyway, giving her complete birth date. She watched confused as Dante's fingers closed with force, his knuckles turning white. When he spoke again, his voice had a different quality, lower, more dangerous. Where is your mother now? At home, sir. She's sick. That's why I'm selling oranges, to buy the medicine she needs. Mary felt tears threatening to overflow but held them back. Crying didn't help. Crying didn't buy antibiotics or pay overdue rent. Sick how? She coughs a lot. Sometimes there's blood. The clinic doctor said it's serious, but the medicine is expensive and we don't have enough money. The words came out in a torrent before she could stop them. Something in the way that dangerous man looked at her made her want to tell everything, as if he could somehow fix the things that were broken in her life. Dante ran his hand through his hair, an expression of something close to pain crossing his face. And your father? Where is he? Mary shrugged, the old wound opening as always happened when this question came up. I don't have a father, never had one. It's just me and my mom. If Mary thought Dante had been motionless before, now he seemed carved in stone. His eyes fixed on her with such intensity that Mary took another step back, suddenly frightened by the raw emotion she saw stamped on that normally controlled face. Marco returned at that moment with a tray containing sandwiches, fruit, and a large glass of orange juice. Dante took the tray from his hands without looking, his eyes still glued to Mary. "Come into the house," he ordered, his voice making it clear it wasn't a request. "But you said I didn't need to." "I changed my mind. You need to see something. Something important." He was already walking toward the main entrance, expecting her to follow. Mary looked at the sandwiches on the tray, at the man disappearing through the door, and made a decision that would change her life forever. She picked up the juice glass and followed Dante Moretti into his mansion. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. Italian marble floors reflected the lights from crystal chandeliers that looked like small castles suspended from the ceiling. Paintings that Mary was sure she had seen in library books decorated the walls. Dark wood and leather furniture gave the place an air of controlled masculinity. But there was also something cold there, despite all the luxury. A feeling of emptiness, as if that enormous house were inhabited only by ghosts and regrets. Dante stopped in the middle of a corridor lined with framed photographs. Most showed men in dark suits at formal meetings, serious faces that seemed to carry the weight of decisions that defined destinies. But it was one specific photo that held all his attention, placed in a hand-crafted silver frame on a small marble console. "Come here," he ordered, his voice hoarse. Mary approached slowly, still holding her juice glass like it was an anchor. When her eyes fell on the photograph, the glass slipped from her fingers. The sound of glass shattering against marble echoed through the mansion like a gunshot, but neither of them moved. The woman in the photograph wore a simple but elegant blue dress. Her black hair fell in waves over her shoulders. She was smiling at the camera with that specific smile that Mary knew so well, that smile she rarely saw anymore, but that still lit up her mother's eyes when she thought Mary wasn't looking. The woman was younger, healthier, happier than the person lying on the thin mattress in the apartment on the outskirts, but there was no doubt. It was her mother. Why? Mary could barely form the words. Her head was spinning, her legs were shaking. "Why is my mom's picture in your house?" Dante turned to look at her. Really look at her. His eyes swept every inch of Mary's face, searching for and finding similarities that made him stagger. The same almond-shaped eyes, the same delicate nose, the same dimple that appeared in the left corner of the mouth when smiling. "What's your mother's name?" "Clara Santos." Mary grabbed the photo frame with trembling hands. "Do you know my mother? How? When?" She never mentioned knowing anyone important, much less someone like. She looked around the opulent mansion. "Someone like you." Dante sank into a nearby leather armchair, as if his legs had suddenly lost the ability to support him. He covered his face with his hands, and when he spoke, his voice was loaded with an emotion so raw it frightened Mary. 10 years. 10 years searching for her. 10 years not knowing if she was alive or dead. 10 years. He let the sentence die, unable to continue. "Searching? Why were you searching for my mother?" Dante lowered his hands, and Mary saw that his eyes were red, shining with tears he refused to let fall. "Because I loved her. Because one day she simply disappeared without explanation. Because I hired private detectives in 3 different states and none could find even a clue. Because..." He stopped, studying Mary's face again. "Because now I think I know why she ran away." Mary's heart was beating so hard she could hear it echoing in her ears. A suspicion was beginning to form in her mind, so big and so frightening that she barely dared think about it. "When was the last time you saw my mother?" Dante closed his eyes.
10 years and 3 months ago. We had fought because my family didn't approve of our relationship. I told her I didn't care about their approval, that I loved her, and we would find a way to be together. She said she loved me too, but maybe love wasn't enough. The next morning she was gone. She didn't take anything except a suitcase of clothes.
She didn't leave a note. She didn't answer my calls. It was as if she had been erased from existence. Mary did the math quickly in her head. 10 years and 3 months ago. She was 9 and would turn 10 in 3 months. Her mother had gotten pregnant exactly 10 years ago. Sir, Mary could barely breathe. Are you saying that? What's your complete birth date? Day, month, and year. I need to be sure. Mary gave the information, watching the color drain from Dante's face. My God. He stood up abruptly, pacing in circles like a caged animal. She was pregnant. She was pregnant and ran away. Why? Why didn't she tell me? Why did she carry this burden alone when He kicked a chair, sending it sliding across the marble floor. The sudden violence made Mary recoil, but Dante raised his hands in a pacifying gesture. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you, it's just 10 years. 10 years not knowing I had a daughter. There it was. The word Mary had waited to hear her entire life. Daughter. Am I your daughter? She asked, her voice small and frightened. Really? Dante knelt in front of her, putting himself at eye level with Mary. Up close, she could see the lines of exhaustion marking his face, the shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights, the permanent tension in his jaw. All the signs point to yes. The timeline fits perfectly. You have my eyes, my nose, even this little mark here. He touched gently near Mary's right eyebrow. Is identical to the one I have. But we'll do a DNA test to be absolutely sure. Not because I doubt, but because I need concrete proof. If you're my daughter, his voice failed, then someone kept you hidden from me, and I need to know who and why. Mary thought about all the times she had asked about her father, all the times her mother looked away, changed the subject, or simply stayed silent with tears running down her face. She thought about the nights when she woke up and heard her mother crying softly, whispering a name that Mary could never quite understand. Sometimes I hear my mother cry at night, Mary admitted. She whispers a name, but I could never understand it properly. Now I think it was your name. Dante's mask of control finally shattered. A tear escaped, running down his face before he could stop it. Dante, my name is Dante Moretti. He wiped his face quickly, as if ashamed to show emotion in front of her. And if you really are my daughter, then there are some things you need to know about who I am and what I do. You're dangerous, Mary said simply. People are afraid of you. I can feel it. The way your bodyguards act, the guns they carry, the way everything here seems like a fortress instead of a home. You're not just rich, you're powerful in a way that scares people. A sad smile crossed Dante's face. Smart, just like your mother. He stood up, walking to a window overlooking the gardens. Yes, I'm dangerous. My family controls a significant part of the business in this city and beyond. Some of these businesses are legal. Many are not. I grew up in this world, learned its rules, climbed the hierarchy. Now I'm the boss. People respect me because they know I protect my own but destroy my enemies without hesitation. He looked at her over his shoulder. Your mother knew this. I met her when I was trying to get out of this world, trying to be someone different. She made me want to be better, and then she disappeared. Maybe she was afraid, Mary suggested. Afraid of your world. Afraid of what could happen to me if she stayed. Maybe. Dante turned completely to face her. Or maybe someone scared her. Someone who didn't want us to be together. His expression darkened. And I have a good idea who would be capable of doing that. Before Mary could ask more, her cell phone rang. She pulled it from her pocket, a cheap second-hand device that barely worked, and saw the neighbor's name on the screen. Her heart raced. The neighbor only called in emergencies. Hello? Mary, dear, it's your mother. She got worse. She's having difficulty breathing. I called an ambulance, but you need to come home now. The phone slipped from Mary's fingers. Dante caught it before it fell, hearing the last seconds of the call. Without wasting time, he shouted orders to his men. Marco, prepare the car, now. And call Dr. Ricci, tell him I need him at St. Luke's Hospital immediately, it's an emergency. Mobilize the private medical team. He took Mary by the hand. We're going to bring your mother to a proper hospital where she'll receive the best treatment available. And then, his expression became cold as ice. Then we're going to find out exactly what happened 10 years ago. And someone is going to pay dearly for every tear you two shed. As the armored car accelerated through the city streets, sirens clearing the way, Mary held Dante's hand tightly. For the first time in her life, she wasn't alone carrying the weight of caring for her mother. For the first time, she had someone with enough power to change things. She just hoped it wasn't too late. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will leave you speechless, St. Luke's Hospital was where the city's wealthy were treated when they got sick. Mary had never even passed near that imposing glass and steel building that shone under the sun like a crystal palace. Now, sitting in the VIP waiting room while an entire team of doctors examined her mother, she felt completely out of place. Dante paced back and forth like a caged lion, his phone glued to his ear as he gave rapid orders in Italian. Marco and 2 other bodyguards blocked the entrance, ensuring total privacy. Nurses hurried past carrying saline bags, medications, equipment that Mary didn't even know how to name. How long does an exam take? Mary asked for the 10th time, nervously biting her nails. The time necessary to ensure your mother receives the correct diagnosis and appropriate treatment, Dante responded, hanging up the phone and finally stopping his pacing. He sat next to Mary, and for the first time she noticed that his hands also trembled slightly. The best specialists in pulmonary diseases are examining her now. If it's curable, we'll cure it. If she needs surgery, we'll do it. Money isn't a problem. Why are you doing this? Mary turned to look at him directly. You're not even sure yet if I'm your daughter, and even if I am, you don't know us. Why spend so much money and effort on strangers? Dante was silent for a long moment before responding. Because if there's a chance, however small, that Clara is the mother of my daughter, then she deserves everything I can give. And because... He hesitated as if the next words were difficult to say out loud. Because I never stopped loving her. In 10 years, there wasn't a single day I didn't think about her. There wasn't a single woman who made my heart beat the same way. And if she's been fighting alone all this time, if she suffered and went hungry and got sick while I was here with all this power and money, then I failed in the worst possible way. Mary swallowed hard. She talks about you sometimes. When she thinks I'm sleeping, she cries and says she made the right choice, but her voice doesn't seem to believe it. She says she kept a secret to protect me, but that this secret kills her a little each day. What secret? Dante leaned forward, his total attention focused on Mary. What was your mother protecting you from knowing? I don't know. She never says clearly. But once I asked why we didn't have family, why it was always just us 2 against the world. She said our family had rejected us, that they said I would be a mistake, that it was better I had never been born. Tears began to roll down Mary's face. Who would say such a thing about a baby? What kind of person rejects an innocent child? Dante's face became dangerously calm, that kind of calm that precedes devastating storms. Someone who values the family image more than the real people inside it. Someone who prefers to control destinies rather than allow others to make their own choices. He clenched his fists. Someone like my mother. Before Mary could process this information, the examination room door opened. A gray-haired doctor wearing an impeccable white coat came out, his expression serious but not hopeless. Mr. Moretti, the patient is stabilized. Miss Clara Santos presents severe bacterial pneumonia, complicated by chronic malnutrition and severe anemia. Not surprising considering the conditions she apparently lived in recent years. The doctor consulted his clipboard. The case is serious but treatable. We'll need to hospitalize her for at least 2 weeks, possibly 3, with last-generation intravenous antibiotics, complete nutritional support, and constant monitoring. There's lung damage that will need to be monitored long-term, but with proper treatment she should recover fully. Mary felt her legs give out with relief. Dante held her before she fell, supporting her weight with ease. Can I see her? Mary asked. Her voice choked. You can, but she's sedated at the moment. She was in extreme suffering when she arrived, so we administered painkillers so she could rest while the antibiotics begin to work. The doctor looked at Dante. I need to inform you of something delicate. During the initial physical exam, we found evidence of old violence. Ribs that were broken and didn't heal properly. Scars consistent with... With what? Dante interrupted, his voice deadly. With physical aggression. Someone beat this woman, and more than once. The silence that followed was so dense that Mary could feel its weight crushing the air around her. Dante didn't move, didn't blink, just remained motionless like a marble statue. But Mary could feel the fury emanating from him in almost palpable waves, a rage so intense that the air seemed to vibrate. Who, he finally said, each word coming out like a sharp blade, would have reasons to hurt Clara? Mary thought about all the fragmented stories her mother had told over the years. She thought about the nights when Clara woke up screaming from nightmares. She thought about the way her mother always looked over her shoulder when they went out, as if expecting someone to find them. She was afraid of someone, Mary admitted. She always said not to call attention, not to talk to strangers about our life, never to mention anything about my father. Once, when I was about 6, an elegant woman stopped our bus and kept staring at me in a strange way. My mother panicked, covered me with a coat, and we got off 3 stops before ours. We stayed hidden in the apartment for an entire week without going out. Describe that woman. Gray hair combed back in a bun. Expensive clothes. Lots of jewelry. She had a pearl necklace and a large ring with a red stone. And she smiled at me, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was scary. Dante closed his eyes and Mary saw his jaw contract. Vittoria Moretti, my mother. He opened his eyes, and what Mary saw there made her take a step back. She found you. 3 years ago, she knew where you were, and let you continue suffering. Not just that, He looked at the doctor. She may have been responsible for hurting Clara. With all due respect, Mr. Moretti, the doctor intervened carefully. These are serious accusations against your own mother. And I'm going to prove each one of them. Dante picked up his phone. Marco, I need you to go to my mother's mansion. I don't care if she's sleeping, in a meeting, or in the middle of mass. Bring her here immediately, and don't accept no as an answer. While Marco left to fulfill the order, Dante turned to the doctor. I want 24-hour protection for Clara Santos. Guards at the door. Cameras monitoring every entrance. Nobody enters or leaves without my personal authorization. Nobody except Mary has visitation permission. And what about the DNA test you mentioned? The doctor asked. Do it now. Collect samples from me and Mary. I want results in less than 24 hours. I don't care how much it costs to speed up the process. A nurse was called to collect the samples. Mary let them swab a cotton swab inside her cheek, watching while they did the same with Dante. The whole procedure took less than 5 minutes but seemed to carry the weight of an entire lifetime. Can I see my mother now? Mary asked after the nurse left. The doctor nodded. Follow me, but remember she's sleeping and connected to various equipment. Don't be frightened. Mary followed the doctor down a silent corridor to a private room that looked more like a luxury hotel suite than a hospital. Her mother was lying in a large bed, almost swallowed by the impeccable white sheets. Tubes came out of her arms. A heart monitor beeped softly beside her. An oxygen mask covered her face. But even with all this medical paraphernalia, Clara seemed more at peace than Mary had seen her in years. Mary pulled a chair close to the bed and took her mother's hand, so thin and fragile it seemed like it could break with a touch. Mom, I found him. I found my father. And he's here. And he wants to help us. And everything's going to be okay now. Behind her, Dante stopped at the door, watching the scene, his daughter holding the hand of the woman he loved, both finally receiving the care they deserved to have had from the beginning. And somewhere in the city, his mother was about to discover she had gravely underestimated how much he was willing to fight for his family. The storm was just beginning. Vittoria Moretti arrived at the hospital like a queen would arrive at an audience with disagreeable subjects, all dressed in Chanel with her characteristic pearl necklace and that air of superiority that made ordinary people automatically bow. She didn't expect to find her son blocking the entrance to a private room, his eyes burning with a fury she hadn't seen since he was 15 and discovered she had sent away his pet dog without permission. Dante, darling, What drama is this dragging me from home in the middle of the night? She began, her honeyed voice carrying just a touch of irritation. Marco said it was an emergency but refused to give details. If this is about business with the Castellanos. It's not about business. Dante cut in, his voice like ice. It's about lies. It's about manipulation. It's about a woman and a child who suffered for 10 years because someone decided to play God with lives that didn't belong to them. Vittoria frowned, genuinely confused. What are you talking about? Clara Santos. Dante said the name slowly, watching his mother's face carefully. He saw it, the brief flicker of recognition, the momentary widening of her eyes before she could control her expression. You remember her, don't you? The woman I loved 10 years ago? The woman who disappeared without a trace overnight? Vittoria's face hardened. That girl. Yes, I remember. Common from the suburbs, completely inappropriate for someone of your position. I thought she had done the sensible thing and left on her own, understanding she would never fit into our world. Sensible thing, Dante repeated, his voice deadly soft. Tell me, Mother, what exactly did you say to her to make her run away pregnant with my child? The color drained from Vittoria's face. For a moment she looked genuinely shocked, but Dante knew his mother too well. She recovered quickly, her expression morphing into calculated concern. Pregnant? Dante, I had no idea. Don't lie to me. Dante's voice cut through her words like a knife. Mary is 9 years old. 9 years, Mother. I have a daughter who grew up in poverty, selling oranges on the street to buy medicine for her sick mother, while I had everything I needed to help them. And you knew. You knew where they were. You found them 3 years ago, and you did nothing. Worse than nothing, you let them continue suffering. Vittoria's mask slipped completely. Her eyes turned cold, calculating. And if I did? That girl wasn't good enough for you, Dante. She would have ruined everything we built, everything our family represents. I did what I had to do to protect you, to protect our legacy. Protect me? Dante's voice rose for the first time, echoing through the hospital corridor. Nurses and staff members stopped to watch, but one look from Marco sent them scurrying away. You destroyed my life. You kept my daughter from me for 9 years. You let the woman I love think I abandoned her. I gave her money, Vittoria said defensively. Enough to start over somewhere else, more than someone like her deserved. How much? Dante demanded. How much did you think my daughter's childhood was worth? How much did you pay Clara to disappear? $5,000, Vittoria answered, lifting her chin defiantly. More than generous for someone of her station. Dante laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. $5,000, for 10 years of my daughter's life, for 10 years of Clara struggling alone. Do you have any idea what you've done? I saved you from making a terrible mistake, Vittoria insisted. You were young, infatuated. You would have thrown away everything for a pretty face and a sob story. Now look at you. Powerful, successful, exactly as I raised you to be. And alone, Dante added quietly. Miserable and alone. Searching for a woman I thought had abandoned me, not knowing I had a daughter who needed me. He stepped closer to his mother, and for the first time in her life, Vittoria Moretti looked afraid of her own son. But you didn't just pay her off, did you? The doctor found evidence of old injuries, broken ribs, scars from physical assault. Did you have someone hurt her mother? Did you have someone beat a pregnant woman? Vittoria's silence was answer enough. Get out, Dante said, his voice terrifyingly calm. Get out of this hospital, get out of my sight, and pray that when I have all the evidence I need, there's still mercy left in me. Dante, you don't understand. I said get out. The roar made Vittoria flinch. She had never heard her son raise his voice to her like this. She opened her mouth to protest, to try to regain control, but the look in Dante's eyes stopped her cold. She turned and left, her expensive heels clicking against the hospital floor, her back straight despite the defeat. But Dante could see the tremor in her hands as she pressed the elevator button. He stood there for a long moment after she was gone, trying to control the rage that threatened to consume him. Finally, he turned and entered Clara's room. Mary was curled up in the chair beside the bed, asleep with her head resting on the mattress, one small hand still clutching her mother's. Dante approached quietly, looking down at the two people who should have been his family all along. Clara's face was peaceful in sleep, the oxygen mask rising and falling with her steady breaths. Mary's face was streaked with dried tears, exhaustion evident in every line of her small body. He reached out, hesitating, then gently brushed a strand of hair from Mary's forehead. His daughter. His child. 9 years of her life he would never get back. Clara stirred slightly, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment she seemed disoriented, taking in the hospital room, the equipment, the man standing beside her bed. Then her gaze focused on Dante, and her eyes widened with shock. "Dante," she whispered, her voice muffled by the oxygen mask. He carefully removed the mask so she could speak more clearly. "Don't try to talk too much, you need to rest." But Clara was shaking her head, tears already streaming down her face. "Mary? Where's Mary? Is she safe?" "She's right here." Dante gestured to the sleeping girl. "She's fine, she found me, Clara. She came to my house selling oranges and she found me." Clara's face crumpled. I'm so sorry, Dante. I didn't know what else to do." "Your mother," she said. She threatened. "I know." Dante pulled up another chair and sat down, reaching out to take Clara's free hand. "My mother just confessed everything. I know about the money. I know about the threats. And I know about the men she sent to hurt you." Fresh tears rolled down Clara's face. "I thought I was protecting Mary. I thought if I stayed away, if I kept her hidden, she would be safe. But all I did was make both of us miserable." "You did what you thought was right with impossible choices," Dante said quietly. "My mother is a monster, and she preyed on your fear. But Clara, you should have trusted me. You should have known I would have fought for you, for us." "Would you have?" Clara asked, her voice breaking. "Your mother said you would never believe me over her. She said you would think I was lying to trap you. She said," she sobbed, "she said you never really loved me, that I was just a distraction." Every word a lie. Dante brought her hand to his lips, kissing it gently. "I searched for you, Clara. For years. I hired investigators, followed every lead, spent millions trying to find you. I never stopped loving you. Never." Clara closed her eyes, more tears streaming down her face. 10 years. We lost 10 years. But we can have the future. Dante looked at Mary, still sleeping peacefully beside them. "Our daughter needs us, both of us, together." Clara's eyes opened, hopeful but fearful. "Your mother won't allow it. She'll try to take Mary away or hurt us again or—" "My mother," Dante said, his voice turning cold, "is about to learn that she doesn't control me anymore. That she never really did. And that there are consequences for what she's done." Over the next 2 days, while Clara slowly recovered under the best medical care money could buy, Dante methodically gathered evidence. He had Marco interview staff members from his mother's household, people who remembered Clara's sudden disappearance 10 years ago. He obtained security footage from 3 years prior, showing Vittoria confronting Clara near their apartment. He had forensic accountants trace payments his mother had made to various consultants, who turned out to be enforcers for hire. The DNA test results came back exactly as expected. 99% probability that Dante was Mary's biological father. He framed the results and hung them on the wall of Clara's hospital room, a tangible proof of the family that should have been. Mary spent every day at the hospital, leaving only when Clara insisted she needed to go home and sleep in a proper bed. But there was no home to go to. Their landlord had evicted them for non-payment of rent, so Dante moved Mary into his mansion, giving her an entire wing decorated specifically for her. A bedroom bigger than their entire apartment had been, a closet full of new clothes, a bathroom with a bathtub she could actually fit in, toys and books and everything a 9-year-old girl could want. But what Mary treasured most was the family photo Dante had commissioned, a picture of him, Clara, and Mary together, taken in Clara's hospital room. It wasn't a perfect portrait. Clara was still thin and weak, wearing a hospital gown. Mary's clothes were mismatched. Dante looked exhausted. But they were smiling, all three of them, and that's what mattered. On Clara's 15th day in the hospital, the day she was finally cleared to be discharged, Dante called a family meeting. Not with his blood relatives, but with the people who mattered: Clara, Mary, and his most trusted men. "My mother has been spreading lies," he announced to the assembled group, "telling her society friends that Clara seduced me and got pregnant on purpose to trap me, that I'm being manipulated now by a gold digger and her bastard child." Mary flinched at the word, but Dante squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. "So tomorrow night we're going to the charity gala that my mother hosts every year, all three of us, and we're going to tell the truth to everyone who matters in this city. No more hiding, no more shame, no more lies." Clara looked uncertain. "Dante, I don't know if that's wise. Your mother is powerful, she has connections, and I," Dante said quietly, "am more powerful." It's time she remembered that. The night of the gala, Clara wore a designer gown that Dante had commissioned specifically for her. Midnight blue, elegant and understated, that made her look like the woman she had been before poverty and hardship wore her down. Mary wore a white dress with blue ribbons that matched her mother's gown, and Dante wore his finest suit, with one addition: a silver pin on his lapel, a family crest he had designed himself, incorporating elements from both his family and Clara's. They arrived fashionably late, making an entrance that had every head turning. Whispers rippled through the crowd as people recognized Dante with an unknown woman and child. Vittoria, holding court in the center of the ballroom, went pale when she saw them. Dante walked directly to the microphone, not waiting for introductions. The band fell silent. Conversations died. All eyes turned to him. "Good evening," he said, his voice carrying through the ballroom with natural authority. "For those who don't know me, I'm Dante Moretti, and I have an announcement to make." He held out his hand, and Clara took it, stepping up beside him. Mary stood on his other side, brave despite the sea of wealthy, judgmental faces staring at them. 10 years ago," Dante continued, "I fell in love with a remarkable woman. Her name is Clara Santos. We were planning a future together when she suddenly disappeared. I spent years searching for her, not understanding why she left, tormented by questions with no answers." The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. What I didn't know then, but have recently discovered, is that Clara didn't leave by choice. She was threatened, bribed, and physically assaulted by someone who decided she wasn't good enough for the Moretti family. Someone who valued reputation over love, control over happiness, power over family. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Vittoria's face had gone from pale to red, fury and humiliation warring in her expression. "That same person," Dante continued, his voice hardening, "kept my daughter hidden from me for 9 years. My daughter Mary, who is standing beside me now, a child who grew up in poverty, who had to sell fruit on the street corners just to afford medicine for her sick mother, while I had more wealth than I could spend in 10 lifetimes." He paused, letting that sink in. Several people in the crowd looked ashamed. They had benefited from his family's wealth, attended parties like this one while a Moretti child went hungry in the streets. "I'm telling you this tonight because I want there to be no confusion about where I stand. Clara Santos will be my wife if she'll have me. Mary is my daughter, recognized and claimed. They are under my protection, part of my family, and anyone who insults them insults me directly." He looked directly at his mother, who stood frozen in the center of the room. "As for those who thought they could control my life, manipulate my choices, and hurt the people I love without consequences," his voice dropped to a deadly quiet that somehow carried even better than his earlier volume, "you were wrong." The room erupted in shocked whispers and excited chatter. Society journalists who had been covering the charity event suddenly had a much bigger story. Phones came out, discreetly at first, then more openly as people realized they were witnessing a major scandal. Dante descended from the stage, still holding Clara's hand with Mary on his other side. They walked through the parting crowd like royalty, heads held high, while his mother stood abandoned in the center of her own gala, her power and control shattered by the truth. As they reached the exit, Clara tugged on Dante's hand. "What happens now?" He looked down at her, then at Mary, then back to Clara. "Now? Now we go home, all three of us. Together. The way it should have been from the beginning." And they did. That night, Clara moved into the Moretti mansion, not as a guest or a charity case, but as its future mistress. Mary finally had both her parents under one roof, waking up to breakfast together, going to sleep knowing she was safe and loved. The aftermath was predictable. Vittoria was ostracized from her own social circles, her manipulation and cruelty exposed for all to see. Several of her supposed friends came forward with their own stories of her controlling behavior. The family business connections she had cultivated for decades began to distance themselves, not wanting to be associated with scandal. Dante didn't cut her off completely. She was still his mother after all. But he made it clear that her role in his life was now limited and conditional on her behavior. She would have no say in his choices, no control over his family, and no access to Mary until she could prove she had changed. It took nearly a year before Vittoria humbled herself enough to apologize. By then, Clara and Dante were already married, and Mary was thriving in her new school, making friends who didn't know or care that she had once sold oranges on street corners. The apology came on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Vittoria arrived at the mansion without her usual entourage, without her designer clothes and expensive jewelry. She looked smaller somehow, older, diminished by the consequences of her own actions. "I was wrong," she said simply, sitting across from Clara and Dante in the living room. Mary was playing in the garden, visible through the window, but out of earshot. "I thought I was protecting you, protecting our family's legacy, but all I did was cause suffering and destroy any chance of a relationship with my own son and grandchild." Clara looked at Dante, leaving the decision to him. "Why should I believe you?" Dante asked. "You lied for 10 years. You hurt people I love. You kept my daughter from me." "You shouldn't believe me," Vittoria said. "Not yet, but I'm asking for a chance to prove that I can change, to prove that I can be the mother and grandmother you deserve, not the controlling monster I became." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. Over the following months, Vittoria slowly rebuilt trust, one small action at a time. She attended Mary's school plays, bringing flowers but never trying to take over. She sent thoughtful gifts on appropriate occasions, but never tried to buy affection. She respected boundaries, even when it was clearly difficult for her. And gradually, painfully, the family healed. Not perfectly. The scars of those 10 lost years would never completely fade. But they learned to move forward, to build something new on the ruins of what had been destroyed. Mary, now 10 years old and thriving, sometimes thought back to that day she knocked on the door of a stranger's mansion, desperate and afraid, clutching a bag of oranges. She thought about the photograph that changed everything, the DNA test that confirmed what her heart already knew, and the father who fought for her once he knew she existed. She learned an important lesson that year, one that would shape the rest of her life. That family isn't just about blood or biology. It's about the choices people make, the fights they're willing to have, and the love they're willing to give. Her father could have accepted his mother's lies. He could have doubted Clara's story, or resented Mary for complicating his life. Instead, he chose to fight for them, to believe in them, to give them the life they deserved. That's what made him her father. Not the DNA test, but the choice. And as she grew older, Mary carried that lesson with her. When she faced her own difficult choices, her own moments of fear and doubt, she remembered the strength her mother showed in running to protect her child. She remembered the courage her father showed in standing up to his own mother. She remembered that the best revenge against those who try to destroy you isn't hatred or bitterness. It's building a life so good, so full of love and success and happiness, that their cruelty becomes irrelevant. That's the true victory. not making your enemies suffer but refusing to let their actions define your future. Mary learned that you don't defeat people like Vittoria by destroying them. You defeat them by proving them wrong, by succeeding despite their efforts to hold you back, by building the family they said was impossible. And every day as she walked through the halls of her new home, ate breakfast with both parents, and went to sleep knowing she was safe and loved, Mary knew that she had won. They had all won. The girl who once sold oranges to survive now had everything she ever needed. But more importantly, she had learned that she was worth fighting for, worth loving, worth protecting.